reason, I didn't get it for my birthday or anything like that. So I had money left over from my DC trip when we went with the school and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I was going to like Best Buy and, the game stores, whatever, every so often when I could convince a parent to let me go.
Yeah.
And eventually I found it. It was a NFL Street
Oh,
because I
okay.
played NBA Street. I was
NBA
like, I
Street.
gotta get, NFL's got to be good too.
Yeah.
I wasn't as fond of it as NBA, but I put a lot of time into the original NFL Street.
Hello and welcome to level 129 of the Thoughts and Players podcast, the gaming podcast with bold takes and no strings attached. I am Jeremy, here with my compadre, David.
What up?
What is up? How are you doing this fine evening?
I'm doing all right. And just for the few fans that might get this, since it's level 129, I just want to say 29? 29? It's from a show.
Which show would that be?
New Girl.
Okay. I've seen it. I can't remember.
It's episode is Schmidt's birthday, and he was turning 29.
Okay.
And he's quite the character.
Yes,
So.
that all makes 100% sense. Even if I don't remember it, just by you saying who it was and what show it was from, I can visualize exactly what it looks like.
Yeah.
He was wearing either no shirt or a button-up collared shirt, I'm assuming.
Yeah, he was. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm doing good. It's been a long day. I've been up since 5:30 for some reason.
Oh, wow.
I usually get up at 8:30, so that's an extra 3 on me. But how's your day been?
It's been all right. Definitely haven't been up since 5:30 or 8:30, but I have been up and been doing stuff, and the day's been going pretty good.
All right, like to hear it.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, chickens, ducks, and hens, welcome into this level of the pod, level 129, I guess.
29?
Alrighty. Okay. Got a couple of cool topics on the docket for you, as always. Let's hop into this bad boy. Let's hop into it by covering what we always talk about first, which is the games that we are playing. Now, I'll volunteer to go first here. It's going to be brief.
Sure.
I talked about in last, I don't know. Actually, I don't know if it's going to be brief, but I'll try to make it brief. So I talked about in the last episode how I've been playing Big Ambitions, digging it. I'm getting to a point where I'm setting up the whole logistics thing because the game can become tedious. It become a bit micromanaging, overbearing. And I said that there were a few other games that if I ended up pivoting to them, that Big Ambitions was going to get the boot. Big Ambitions got the boot.
Oh, for what?
For none of the games I listed. That's
very typical.
Yes. I have for the past few nights dived headfirst into Fable 3.
Really?
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The worst Fable of the series. I have jumped back into it because I wanted to experience. I have recently, I'd say within the past 6 months, gone back and played the original Fable and beat it and played Fable 2. So I said, heck, why not? Let's finish it off, the trilogy. You know what I'm saying? Let's just do it. I mean, again, Godfather 1, cool. Godfather 2, cool. Sometimes you're like, you know what? Let's just do the Godfather 3. It's there. Let's just knock it out, right? Yeah. So I have been playing Fable 3 and only Fable 3. Fable 3, not as bad as people make it out to be. It is still bad. But it's not as bad, I think, as people remember. I think people remember it being atrocious, and it's not atrocious. It's just kind of bad. There's just some game design decisions that don't make sense. That slow things down. But otherwise, it's a Fable world. The character, the British charm is there. All those different things, different story. That's going along there. So it's been fun to jump back into. I think partly the reason I went to it is because those Fable games, you could turn your brain off. And I think after playing Big Ambitions so much for the past week or two, I just needed something to turn my brain off. And so I just picked up Fable 3. I've been able to turn my brain off on that. When I decide to turn it on, the other game that I played a little bit that I'm not going to 100% count yet, is going to end up being one of those 3 games. But I would say that was negligible. That's me poking around in something for 30 minutes. Besides that, the game that I have been playing has been Fable 3. So that's pretty much been it.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was really short. That was only like 20 words.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Mine has not been so different. I've been playing a lot of finals and rivals.
Okay. Is there I know last time on the last episode you had mentioned, hey, tanking doesn't feel as natural in this. Have you spent some more time playing as a tank? Have you picked up some more nuance and understanding?
Like, because I've been like filling in tank.
Okay.
Because I usually go with DPS like a lot of people, but I don't feel like losing automatically, so I'll at least try. And I've been playing a lot of Groot, and it's not too bad with his wall abilities. So I still need a lot of work, but it's better than it was last week.
Do you feel like that's going to be in the rotation for a minute with Marvel Rivals?
Probably. I had to do that a lot in Overwatch as well.
Yeah.
So I'm used to it.
Yeah.
It's not, end of the world if I can't play DPS for one game, because I also like instantly lock Hella every game. And if we get 2 healers and at least 1 tank, then I'll stay. But I'm there for the team. I'm there to try to win. So if we need a tank or if we need a healer, I'll switch off.
Okay. I noticed the past few weeks it's been either the finals or finals Marvel Rivals. Mm-hmm. So I've not heard any Dead by Daylight recently. I've not heard. There was one other game that was in. Oh yeah, that's right. You mentioned that you've kind of been weaning yourself off of Apex a little. You're just kind of done with the current state of the game.
I haven't played this season.
Yeah. Okay. Very interesting, because those are, especially Apex, those are 2 staples. And for almost the past month,
it's just
you haven't mentioned them at all.
The game itself is just so bad right now.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the season, it's not the health medic roster buffs, because they got huge buffs in the last season and it was absurd. Like, everyone was playing 3 medics. Like, that's how ridiculous the buffs were. But not even that, I had fun doing that. It's just the game itself. The audio was here and there. The connection issues I have is atrocious. I don't have any connection issues with any other game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Apex just really needs to work on the game itself before I go back.
Okay. Fair. That is fair.
Yeah, I'll play a 7 out of 10 all day, but not a 4 out of 10.
I feel you. 4 out of 10s depends on what kind of 4 out of 10 for B. Depends on what kind of 4 out of 10. I may be able to give you a little bit of time here, but yeah, even I'd say Fable 3 is like a 6. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
so that's pretty much it. All righty. Well, that out the way, we're time to move into some topics. I'm trying to think of which topic. We kind of really didn't discuss this before recording that we might want to jump into first. How are you feeling? Are you feeling like want to explore yours, or
we can go with yours?
Okay. All right. Cool. Well, that's cool. So mine kind of leapfrogs off of something I talked about, I think, a few episodes ago, which was the new Dynasty Warriors game came out. Apparently, people bought it and they liked it. I did not know that people knew about Dynasty Warriors like that, but apparently they did. I'm still boggled by it. I thought everyone was like, this game franchise sucks.
Yeah.
And then apparently everyone went and bought it. So it's been going on at least few weeks here now where this game is not available in stores around me. It's not available in the Best Buy. It's not available in the GameStop. I'm also not sure if you're aware of where I live, they actually closed one of the GameStops. So instead of there being, I'm not sure if you remember. Yes, the one by the mall. So
Yeah.
instead
The
of
one
there
across the
being,
street is still open.
it's still open. So instead of there being 3 within a mile, there's only 2 within a mile now.
The
Um,
nerve.
I know, right? So, but it hasn't been at any stores that I can see. You know, if I want to order it on Amazon, you got to wait a week or so, which isn't really anything bad. But I'm like, I want to trade in games towards it, or I want to be able to go in there physically buy it. I don't trust the whole
Right.
whatever thing. I want to do that. Haven't
Exactly.
found it. Have not been able to find it, and that made me think about like I can't remember the last time I had such difficulty tracking down a game. It's had to have
Hmm.
been a minute. So that made me think, what were the last games or some games that you can remember that you wanted, but it was actually hard for you to find them? And did you eventually end up finding them, and what happened with them? I can offer up first just to kind of get, I think, one that I've mentioned before out of the way. Ended up being arguably, it's in my top 5 of favorite games ever. For the life of me at the time, I could not find a copy of Morrowind for the Xbox, original Xbox.
Wow.
Looked everywhere. A bunch of different Game Stops that were near me, and I mean, this is back in the day, so I'm not even
Right.
sure. I mean,
Like
this is,
OG Xbox.
yeah. So we're talking like, I don't know when this is, maybe like 05, 06 ish. So I'm not even sure if anything like Funkolands were even around then, or I'm not sure. But I remember going to a bunch of different places.
I think so. Or EB
That-
Games.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm not sure if those were still around or not. But I remember going to a bunch of places, couldn't track it down. I did this for weeks. Eventually, I ended up tracking down a copy of the game at a GameStop that was about 20 miles away from where I lived.
Dang.
And to her credit, my mom, while she was out, because she knew that they had it there, drove and picked up the game for me and brought it back for me to play. It was the only copy of the game they had there left. It was the game, it had the case, it had the disc, no book in the case. It was just the case and the game in the disc. That's it.
Okay.
And I remember being so absolutely elated. I remember that it was like an evening and it was raining and it was dark. Like, it was a super inconvenience to drive that far for a kid to get him a stupid $20 video game. But she did it and brought it back. And that's when the whole journey set off for me. And a matter of
Right.
fact, I still have that exact case and game disc. I still have my World One game. I'm never getting rid of that thing.
That's what's up. I for real. Like there's just some things, even though you have no intent of ever looking or using it again, you're like, I gotta keep it.
Yeah.
Gotta keep it.
And what's crazy with that is that I did end up using it. I don't know if you remember when I first got my Xbox Series X. The
Hmm.
first thing I did was play Morrowind and Star Wars.
I do remember
Star
you
Wars
saying that.
KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic.
Right.
So I'm like, hey, I just bought this brand new system, leading edge technology, and I played 2 games from 2003 on it. Right, like that's just how I did it. But yeah, so that's one for sure that was like super hard. I'm like, I'm never gonna get this game. Then lucked out, finally got it, and it's in the Pantheon. It's one of the top 5, easy.
That's just that's a good story though, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like you did all this work to try and find it. Your mom just always happens to know it's at a store and grabs it and you play it and it's like one of your favorite games.
Yeah.
You know, like if it was the exact opposite, you do all this work for it and you get it and you're like, this game sucks. Like
Oh,
that's a crappy story,
I got an opposite.
you
We're
know?
gonna hold that. I'm gonna hold that one in the sleeve for you right there. But yeah, I got one of
Heck
those.
yeah. We'll jump to mine then.
Yeah.
I think I only have one game like for this because I was honestly mostly spoiled growing up. That was the way my dad fought was with money.
Yeah.
So we usually got a lot of stuff. But there was one game that I really wanted, and just for some reason I didn't get it for my birthday or anything like that. So I had money left over from my DC trip when we went with the school and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I was going to like Best Buy and the game stores, whatever, every so often when I could convince a parent to let me go.
Yeah.
And eventually I found it. It was a NFL Street.
Oh,
because I
okay.
played NBA Street. I was
NBA
like, I
Street.
gotta get, NFL's got to be good too.
Yeah.
I wasn't as fond of it as NBA, but I put a lot of time into the original NFL Street.
Yeah. Well, that's cool.
Yeah, so I was like, finally,
Finally.
after a couple weeks, not that long, but I loved it.
And like the crazy thing with games that are so hard to track down, they kind of build a mystique about them. There's almost kind of like the anticipation of it makes you feel like, oh, this game is going to, just blow the rocks off of whatever when I finally get it because it's so hard. Everyone wants it. Everyone wants it. That's why I can't get it because it's so great. You don't consider things, at least at that time and age, that like, oh, there could be supply chain issues, or
Right.
there's
Yeah, you have
actually
no
low
idea how things
demand for the
work.
game, which is
You
why
know?
they aren't stocking it as much of their inventory because the game actually has low expected output as far as purchasing. Like, you don't
Right.
consider those things. You're just like, oh, I can't get this. That means that everyone's against me because they know this game is awesome and I want it too. So that's what's going on. And that's what I thought with Morrowind. I'm like, there's a bunch of these middle-aged nerds out here trying to take and keep this game from me now. You know what I'm saying? Because I want to enjoy something that's awesome. And it's like, no,
Right.
it's not the case.
That's
Matter of
that's a
fact,
funny story.
as a now middle-aged nerd, I can tell you, we don't think about you when we're trying to go out there and get these games. It's nothing to do with that. Um,
That's that's funny seeing the other side of the coin.
yeah, it's like that's not what's happening at all. So going into my other game, a little bit of backstory with this one. I am a huge kung fu movie fan. And obviously, with that being said, my favorite kung fu movie artist is Bruce Lee. Welp, in 2002, they came out with a Bruce Lee video game for the Xbox. Okay, Bruce Lee Quest of the Dragon. I could not find this game. I looked everywhere, and it's the same thing. I'm like, man, everyone's a Bruce Lee fan. Is that what's going on here? Everyone's trying to get this Bruce Lee game, and I can't get it at all. I'm one of the biggest fans of Bruce Lee. I love Bruce Lee. Let me get this game so I can actually. I've always played beat 'em ups and different kung fu games and stuff like that, and I'm like, the idea of me being able to finally play as Bruce Lee is awesome. All these people have been a proxy for Bruce Lee.
Right.
So looking everywhere, calling, can't find it. I can't remember the exact store, but I ran into, I remember now, there used to be a franchise of like used video game stores. They aren't around anymore, but they used to, I forgot their name, but they used to have like the branding was like blue and black and different stuff like that. But someone had a franchise of theirs. I wandered into it. I see it right on the shelf. Bruce Lee, Quest of the Dragon, used. I said, oh, I didn't plan on dropping $40 or whatever it was at the time, but let me drop this and get this back. Put it in the car, hyped,
Right. Like
going,
finally.
finally going back to play this, firing this up into the Xbox, right? Like, finally, I'm going to do this. I'm going to knock this out. 2-3 minutes into the game, I'm like, oh, this game is garbage. Like, it's not just bad, it's bad.
Right.
And then that just bumped, and then it was like, not only did I spend money on this game that sucks, and part of it's like, well, the game sucks. If I don't like it, I can take it back, get my money back, or I can trade it in or something like that, right? The thing that was more devastating was the fact that I'm like, the Bruce Lee family let them do this.
Right.
They let them put Bruce Lee in this type of game.
Honor.
There was a whole sense of betrayal in regards to like that game being terrible, how it impacted the legacy of Bruce Lee in my eyes, right?
Yep.
To a point where I'm like, you know what, this game can kick rocks, and for a little bit, Bruce Lee can kick rocks. You know what I'm saying?
Ooh.
Like,
Oh.
this is a total betrayal. This is what you guys slinging. This is the
Right.
fake dope you guys slinging. I wanted that
Right.
real pure, uncut. This is what you giving me. So that was one that turned into all, like I said, you're trying to find it, you can't find it, you're searching. All the anticipation, expectations grow. And I don't get something that just completely like doesn't meet my expectations. I get something that is objectively god awful. It was like, man, it's just a whole wipe And then I'm like, bro, I can't trust my instincts. What do I do? I don't know what to do. You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying? It
it's a
was
rough
devastating.
spot.
Devastating. Devastating. But it sticks with me. It sticks with me. There's some I think about the games I love as much as I think about the games that I hate that betrayed me. I think about those just as much as the ones I love. So when I'm here thinking
Perfectly
about
balanced,
Morrowind,
as things
I'm
should
also
be.
thinking about Bruce Lee Quest of the Dragon. I think about that game every now and then, and it pisses me off. You know what I'm saying? I can't stop. Sometimes
Right.
just like,
It's
oh man,
infuriating.
oh God, do you remember Bruce Lee Quest of the Dragon? God, you know what I'm saying? It's just I
Just
think of the
pops
same
in
thing.
your
Like,
head, you just instantly get mad.
oh yeah, especially when I'm thinking about other games that I love because they all tie together. I think about, man, I love Ghost of Tsushima so much.
Right.
Then I'm like, man, I remember Trekayomi. Man, that game pissed me off. That game was so bad. That was supposed to be awesome. I just think about it all the time. It just pendulum swings from one to another. But yeah,
Um,
that was the
that's
other one for me.
that's funny. I'll throw in this story. It's kind of relevant to that. I didn't have to like wait for this game per se, but for some reason at one point I was like, oh, I'm gonna go for Gamer Score on Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
So I was renting all these random games, and I wanted to rent the Avatar: The Last Airbender game they had for it on the
Mm,
360.
yeah.
And I think they didn't have it the first two times I was there, so I got like King Kong and TMNT and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally got it. I played it for like 10 minutes because the achievements in that game was get a 10 combo attack, get a 20 combo attack, and it was only 5 of them, and it was, 50, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50
Yeah.
combos, right? The first 3 minutes of the game, I get all the achievements. Just these bad guys are just coming in.
Yeah.
The game was just so awful. I was like, I don't want anything to do with this game.
Yeah.
Played it for
Uh,
10 minutes. I was like, I'm done. I got the achievements that I wanted, I guess, but this is not what I expected. This is horrible.
Right. And see, that brings up another thing because, especially with the Bruce Lee one, I try to be aware of movie IP or IP games. So
Right.
like an Iron Man game or like a Thor game, right? Like I know they're just whatever. But this was supposed to be an organic original story centering around Bruce Lee as a protagonist, right? So I'm like, oh God, like what are you guys like? What are you doing? This doesn't make any sense. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Can't even give them
Yeah,
benefit of the doubt because it's a movie IP
right.
show kind of thing.
Right, right. So I got duped that way, but it was like,
Hmm.
hey, it's about a famous person. Famous person, we're gonna get your coin. We're gonna get your coin, and we're gonna poop out a game, and you're not gonna know what to do. You're just gonna fall for it because you're gonna see Bruce Lee on the cover with his fists, holding his fist up like he does in all his movies, and you're gonna be like, oh, awesome, I want to be Bruce Lee. Rip off, total rip off. Anyway,
Shame.
that's the end of my topic. I
Okay.
don't know if I'm gonna ever in the interim of the Dynasty Warrior Origin stuff, I've been playing Fable and some other stuff. So I'm just basically trying to make myself say, you know what? Don't worry about it. Who cares? Nobody cares about this game. This game ain't a big deal anyway.
It'll,
Everyone that's playing this game, they're stupid. Who cares?
it's,
You know what I'm saying? Just do
you
your
know,
thing.
time will, do its course.
Yep.
You will have it eventually. Hey, you might even save some money
Oh, for sure.
by the
That's
time
the
you
goal
find
now.
it.
Now I'm steadfast on I'm going to get this game and I'm not going to pay full price at all. Watch. This is what you deserve now. You deserve for me to not pay you full price because you weren't available when I wanted you. This is me throwing a tantrum.
Okay. My topic, I wanted to talk about the very beginning when we first started playing video games, like who got you into video games and like what type of games did they play?
Ah, well, did you want to start this? Or you want
Yeah,
me
I
to
was
start
gonna
this?
say I'll go first
Okay.
and give you some time to think about it.
Yeah.
So I remember my mom loved to play Tetris,
Mm.
but my dad, he played a lot of Mario.
Mm.
The Super Mario Worlds or whatever they're called on the Nintendo,
Mm-hmm.
right? He'd play those a lot. And then eventually when PlayStation came around, he played the, Twisted Metal games.
Okay.
That's where I got that from, you know. And he
Yeah.
would play the Sonic games when we had Sega. So like all the adventure games and stuff like that. I think that's where it's from. And all like kind of like the puzzle games. I think I got that from my mom. And then
Yeah.
eventually when I was older, and I say older, but I mean like 7, you know, my grandma and grandpa would watch us a lot, and my grandpa would play like Link with us,
Okay.
or the original Zelda. I forget what that one's called, the gold one.
Ocarina of Time, right?
No, that's the 64.
Ah, it is.
But that one's my one of my favorites.
Okay, I know which one you're talking about.
But
Yeah.
yeah, the gold cased Zelda one. So
Yeah.
I had 3 people really show me the ropes of video games, and I think that's what sucked me in because I knew so many people did that on their free time.
Mm-hmm.
So here I am, hours and hours into video games.
Yeah.
My son too. You know, I
Yeah.
showed him.
What do you think? So think about that then, kind of like to build on top of that. What's your son's story going to be on that? What was the would you credit yourself as being getting him into games? Like getting him
I
into video gaming?
I would think so because his mom doesn't really do any video gaming.
Mm-hmm.
Um, one point I think she was living with her brother, or her brother was living with her, and he plays some video games, so he might have had some help in that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've always played games when he was over. You know, like I'll let him watch me play and stuff like that.
Right.
And even like I've always had an Xbox and stuff like that, so I give him like a controller,
Right.
make it look like he's playing stuff like that.
What was the game you think? What was the first game? You
Um,
know?
well, when he was really little, I played a lot. That was when I was really playing a lot of The Last of Us,
Okay.
and I was playing a lot of this program called Octagon, and so you could play trading card games on it. And that's when I was
Okay.
playing a lot of DBZ. So I was playing that on there, and maybe some other ones, but I can't really pick them out, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the main one would be like The Last of Us and maybe PUBG.
Okay. I
So
got you.
I think that's why he's into a lot of the fighting games and stuff like that.
Yeah. That's cool. I can appreciate that. Um, Thinking about mine, so it kind of goes the same with what you were saying, or kind of like what you talked about, where there's not really a singular person. It's kind of like a series of people and different experiences.
Hmm.
I would say probably the first was my uncle. Didn't I never really watched him play video games, but he had the video games. So whenever I would go over to visit with him, and it was at the time when he was living with my grandparents, but then eventually when he moved out and got his own place, he would have Nintendo or Sega Genesis. And so I'm like, hey, can I play, set up the Sega so we can play Sonic? Or, we had
Right.
the original Nintendo, we're playing Mario and we're playing, different
Yeah.
stuff like that. Double Dragon and stuff, right? And then my aunt, who was also living with my
Freaking Double Dragon.
grandparents, awesome, right? She also had a Sega Genesis, and she had some different games. So one game that I always used to play was she had the Sega Genesis port of Mrs. Pac-Man, right? So just run Mrs. Pac-Man until you don't know
Yeah.
what's happening, right? So
Right.
I'd run that a lot. And then what would happen is that I also played games. These are like some places where I played video games before I really actually started to consistently play video games and have video games at home, because it wasn't something that really started at home. It was kind of the influence of, oh, he likes playing video games when he goes to these other people's places, so let's get him his own system. And
Right.
so the other one was my cousin, in particular, his older brother used to buy a bunch of video game systems. And it's kind of like my uncle too, where he's like, he didn't really play them, but he would just buy games of interest. And so for him, he's a super, super big wrestling fan. So when we talk about all the old school, like WCW versus NWO and
Yeah.
WWF Raw and WWF WrestleMania 2000, No Mercy, all the great, like, you know what I'm saying, N64 wrestling games. Like, he's the one that got all those, and we played those at nauseum. And he's the one that he's the one that got like GoldenEye. When I first played GoldenEye, it was over there, right? And then my other uncle who had who had the Sega Genesis, he would upgrade, always get the latest thing. He's more so of a technology person. So
Got
games
it.
is technology. So he'd be like, oh, I got an N64 now. Oh, guess what? I got Turok 2, Seeds of Evil. Seeds of Evil. I got Nightmare Creatures. You want to try that out? I'm like, Turok 2, I'll try this out. Shooting dinosaurs, a little bit scary.
Yeah,
Nightmare
Turok's for fun.
Creatures. Yeah, Nightmare Creatures, not Blink Planet at all. Hella scary. I don't want to get scared. But
scary.
different things like that. That's kind of where it's this big bombardment of all of it is like where the gaming journey starts. And then my cousin, she also had, everyone had a Sega Genesis apparently in my house or in my family.
Sounds
So,
like it.
she had games that I would really enjoy. She had games I hate, right? My hate of Echo the Dolphin comes from the fact that my cousin had
That's the
that game and
origin,
that was the
huh?
game we played. That's the origin story. So, it's all these different experiences and stuff that kind of happened. And then like later on we talk about, like, I got it from them, and then like my cousin Big Beard Josh kind of got that from me. It was kind of like a trickle thing of like, he's coming over my house playing all these different games, I'm going to everyone else's house playing all these different games, and it's kind of how we're like building this communal thing of gameplay. And then of course I've talked before about my genesis into PC and strategy came from the guy that lived on my block that just gave me all these strategy games for free. He said, hey,
Right.
try them out, right? So that's kind of all those different stories kind of played into how I got my gamer story, right? My parents had a friend, he played video games, he had a PlayStation 2. He bought every EA Sports, he had every EA Sports game, Madden and PGA and all of them. So that's how I started playing sports games, particularly Madden. It's because he had all the sports games. So that's really how it started. It was never a thing of like, I mean, I don't know if we're at that in the age range of, hey, I went to the arcade and got into gaming that way. I don't know if that's really where a lot of us came from anymore. I think that's like 5-7 years, a little bit earlier than us. But that's kind of where it is now. And kind of like what you were saying, like with your son, probably even some people a little bit older, it's people playing, like The Last of Us came out, what, 2013?
Yeah,
2012, 2011, maybe even?
something like that.
Right? Like there's people in middle school now that when they were born, GTA 5 was just released. Like,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? It's different. And it's interesting the different origin stories everyone has of gaming. But I would say my uncle, my aunt, and my cousin for sure. My cousin's like older brother. Those three for sure were the main influencers of like getting me into video gaming.
That's what's up.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. It's a good story.
It's really interesting to kind of think back and examine that. And like I said, I just came to the epiphany now that everyone in my family had a Sega Genesis. I just lined it up now. Like, wait, my uncle had a Sega Genesis. My cousin had a Sega Genesis. I never had a Sega Genesis. I never owned a Sega system, unfortunately.
Wow. I had the regular Sega. I never got a Dreamcast. And then I
Yeah.
had a Nintendo and then an N64. I never had a Super Nintendo. And it kind of like, that sucks because there was a lot of good games on there that I missed.
On which one?
The Super Nintendo.
Yes. Yes. You got the
I
wrong
played
Nintendo.
like 2 or 3. Yeah.
Well,
no one I
but you
knew
got the
ever
wrong
had
one.
one.
Yeah. Oh, the Super Nintendo. I had a Super Nintendo. You talking about the gray boy with the purple buttons?
Yeah.
That was me. That's where I came in at. I had that forever. I had Super Nintendo forever. And then I think I had Super Nintendo and then went PlayStation. I think that's how it went. I went from gray box to gray box. That was my thing.
Keeping it gray.
Gray box to gray box, and then I got PlayStation 2, and then I got an Xbox, and then all that stuff happened there,
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's how that happened. Interesting stuff, man. Gaming, like how people get into it is going to obviously like continue to change. Like now people might get into it by streaming, right?
Right. I mean, video gaming is literally everywhere now.
Yeah,
You know, it was a niche thing when we were very little.
way more niche. Yeah, way more niche. And it's crazy. Like that was niche, but still large enough to where there's like brick and mortar stores, different stuff like
Right.
that. I think the most interesting thing that's had that I've seen is the rise of PC gaming. As PC gaming gets more expensive to enter, is the thing that I find really interesting. Like the idea is, I think 7, 8 years ago, people weren't really talking about PC gaming. Like PC gaming wasn't really like, it's like, okay, it's a novel thing. It's people that have money, they PC game. That's what they do. The quote unquote PC master race. That's partly where it came from. Was like a price to entry standpoint. And then
Probably.
everyone was like, oh, my kid shuts up when they play Fortnite, and they do all this stuff on Fortnite on PC or PUBG or different thing like that. Quick, get the kid a computer. Everyone needs a computer. Quick, get the kid a computer. And that's where it took off. Computer gaming is already around, right? Doom, Descent.
Right.
We're talking about 90s right there, 80s, 90s, right? But how big it's gotten in within the span of a decade to me is crazy. Because I don't remember
I'm-
anyone in my friend circle really talking about PC gaming, and now
Right.
everyone's like, "What GPU should I get? What CPU should I get? Yada yada yada." I'm like, "What's your budget?" They're like 1,500. I'm like 1,500. I used to when I was younger, I used to just go freaking rock down to Circuit City and grab e-machines for 200-300 bucks and just play them and just play them bad boys so they blew up and then go grab another one, right? Um, it's like, man, it's crazy, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's
I
cool
mean,
to see.
I had, I think, 3 friends that played computer games
Mm-hmm.
growing up, you know, until I hit like high school and it started to be a little more of a thing.
Yeah.
But it blew up and expanded like a lot in the last decade, like you said.
Yeah.
But every section of technology has done that.
Mm-hmm.
The way we listen to music just exponentially just out of nowhere just blew up. We went from tape players to MP3 players within like 10 years.
Yeah.
And then our phones went from only at home on the cord to now we have a computer
Right.
in
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
15 years. It's
Yep.
crazy. So it happening to video games as well. It was in time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It was inevitable. Only a matter of time. Yeah. Well, that rounds out your topic. I think we're good to move
Yeah.
to final thoughts.
Yeah.
Final thoughts, where we can talk about something that is either related or unrelated to this podcast episode. So, who would like to give a final thought first?
I'll go.
Okay.
All right. So the reason I thought of my topic is because my father passed away 4 days ago.
Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that.
It's okay. I haven't talked to him in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
But the only reason they called me is because I was next to kin and I had to tell them to pull the plug or not or whatever, but I didn't answer. I was sleeping.
Yeah.
So his mom did it. But like that's the only reason I know is because his caretaker had to message me. And I was just
Oh,
like,
okay.
wow.
I got you.
So I'm
Yeah.
just, it was always the call I was waiting for because he never took care of himself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just surprised it happened as early as it did.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what made me think about it. It was like, not a great person, but he showed me a few good things. He showed me video games and hacky sack.
There you go.
That was
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. Try to find the good, the lessons, the good and constructive ways that someone was able to input something, even if they didn't input a lot of good. Some of the good you can kind of like
Exactly.
take note of and appreciate for yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Because
Yeah.
like I don't know if I saw this saying or know it from somewhere or I made it. I don't know, but I always like the phrase good people do bad things and bad people do good things.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
my final thought.
Interesting final thought. Very very profound.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess thank you for being kind of willing or comfortable enough to share that.
Oh, for sure.
My final thought, is going to be, I wouldn't say a little. I would say far less profound and significant than what your final thought was. But my final thought was, I was going through and seeing a bunch of stuff with, I mentioned it before on here, this game Dragon Age: The Veilguard, which when I went to GameStop, I saw they were selling it brand new for $25. And I said, oh, this thing bombed. Huh?
Oh, it's bad. The developers of that game are blaming the consumers. They're like, they're not buying it because it doesn't have multiplayer.
There you go. Number one. It's interesting because it feels like, there's a bunch of social, economic, cultural things that are happening and moving between consumer and product creator developer within gaming. And I think within that group, there's a large swath, not all, but there's a large swath of narcissism that's kind of crept in for both sides. And they manifest in different ways. And the ways I've seen it manifest for the developers is to shirk any responsibility they have of their own failures and set them upon consumers or other factors or other things like that. And it's really interesting how at one light your game can be an immediate failure after claiming it to be a success, and it was for 2 days. And while another game, like perhaps we don't know for sure yet 100% if it will be, but all indications are that Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is going to be a massive success. And they did that just by refining things and focusing on the games and taking responsibility for what they needed to take responsibility for. It's amazing how one side cannot understand or see those things. And that's, again, going back to one of the things I was thinking about with this, reading all this stuff with like Dragon Age: The Veilguard. There's a lot of piling on that's happening with that game failing. And I believe that it is like social, politically, culturally motivated in a lot of realms. They just don't kind of like the messaging of the game in some instances, and that's fair. I've always kind of found it interesting or confusing that if you really want to send a message, they're getting it now, which is just don't engage with the game. Like, just don't buy the game. Don't even talk about the game.
Right.
That gets the message across way further. Matter of fact, if you're not even talking, the only reason that these people are able to say it's your fault is because you're still talking to them. There's still a conversation. They need to hear the silence. The silence allows them to be reflective and introspection, hopefully.
Right.
I don't know if these people are capable of that.
There's nothing to argue with, nothing to comment on. Like there's no substance for them to nibble on.
Right. But I mean, at the same time, it's kind of like, hey guys, like you're saying, like you guys are like, oh, the game is dead. It's like, yeah, it's dead, so let it die. I don't know. Let's talk about these other games that are awesome. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 and whatever else is coming out. Civ 7 just came out. I don't know if the reviews are on it or it's about to come out. Got to look into that. But yeah, that's kind of like my final thought is we talk about games that suck. When Redfall came out, we did a review saying, hey, this thing sucked. And then we didn't talk about it anymore. We didn't make 7 more videos or 25 more shorts about how much it sucks. We just said, hey, this game sucks. And then we left it. Because that's the best thing you can do. Exactly. That is it for me, though, which brings us to the end of level 129 of the Players Podcast. If you like what you heard, please follow and subscribe to the podcast on your preferred podcast service. You can also like, follow, and share our socials. We go on Facebook, Instagram, X, what else is there? TikTok. And then, of course, we're on YouTube where we upload video versions of the podcast every week, as well as on Spotify. Video podcasts up on Spotify as well. If you want to support us, there you go. If you want to support us, there's a couple ways you can do that. One, get the merch. We got shirts and hats and cups and other things like that with very popular sayings such as "What up?" and "Black guy, woman." It's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Also, you can support us on Patreon. We have 3 tiers of subscription you can do: a $2, a $5, and $7 tier, each offering slightly different bits and goodies. So you can check that out, see if that interests you there. Would definitely appreciate the support. But that's it for me. David, was there anything else you wanted to add?
Peace.
All right, well, thanks for tuning in, and we will catch you on the next level.